Mission Bass is about putting bass into the spotlight, defying common bass cliches, and it's all about the idea that a world with more bassists could be a better world, potentially. Because the function of the bass really is to support and serve everyone around you. Even science has now proven that bass is the most important instrument in the band. And with that much responsibility, us bassists have a lot of power. And it's really in our responsibility to use that power and make use of it in a good, positive way. So, to me, that basically makes the formula bass equals support. And that's how I came up with the idea of becoming an ambassador, not just playing bass and using all these great skills that you learn playing bass for music, but use it in the whole big picture of life, really. So you could be somebody who's leading without the need to be in the spotlight, just like a bass player does. You could be someone who leaves space for other people to grow, just like a bassist. You could take responsibility, not just for your own actions, but for the people around you as well. And last but not least, bassists are often humble people and serve the people around them. So I think we're onto something here. And I'm really, really excited, flabbergasted almost, that over 250 people have showed up. And yeah, I can't wait to play some music for you and introduce my very special guest. Today we have the amazing Ariane Cap, well known from Scott's Bass Lessons, from her own YouTube channel, from notrouble.com, and obviously Ari's blog, where she talks about playing bass and doing it in a very effective and clear way. So what do you say? Should we bring her on the screen? And then I need to hear you clap or just write in the comments that you want to hear her, because I can't really hear you. But you know what? We are trying to improve the show from episode to episode. So I spent the whole last 2.5 months. So we finally have this. Bring Ariana! Okay, enough already. That's enough. There we are. Hey, Ariana.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Mischa, thank you so much for having me. I loved your intro speech. This is very true. As bass players, we are in a supportive role, and also it is lovely to step out into the solo world once in a while. So that's really, really fun that you're putting this on, that you're connecting so many people. We had a lot of sign-ups and buzz yesterday on my blog about it. So very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the support. I think you've gave this mission a good kick in the butt. Thank you for that.
Well, good things are worth sharing, so
yeah,
I'm happy to be here.
Exactly.
And to wear the shirt.
Oh yeah, the ambassador
I love
shirt.
the shirt.
Yeah, I always send my guest shirts as a little thank you for coming on the show and supporting the mission. And Ariana was the first one to send me a t-shirt back, which you can see, because today it's a little bit chilly over here. But 2 days ago I did a live on Facebook where I'm actually wearing the shirt and talking about Ariana's theory books and everything. So you can catch that on Facebook. But now, Ariana, tell us, what have you been up to in the last year? How have you been dealing with the changes? Were you able to take advantage? Did you have some huge drawbacks where you say, I really wish this never happened? Or are you coming out the other side of the crisis stronger and more positive than ever?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. I mean, shocked and chilled and stopped in my tracks. I used to travel a lot, and that came obviously to a grinding halt. But I've been super busy. I finished my second book. I ran an Indiegogo campaign. I moved halfway across the country. We moved from LA to Nashville. I started a new group format with my students, which I absolutely love. We call it practice groups, where there's a small group of people online because my waiting list was so full. I had over 100 people on there, and I just can't see people one-on-one as much as I'd like to. So came up with this practice group format, which has been super fun for me. I always feel like I learn more from my students than the other way around, you know. So it's been just really, really fun to do that and experiment with that and set up a video studio with multiple cameras and switches. So this is the third time I'm testing this today. So we'll see how everything works. You know how it goes. Thank you. Yeah, I need them, and supposedly I got lights and all sorts of tricks. You know. So I don't know, but it's supposedly. Thank you so much. Oh my God, now I have the chat. Thank you so much. Now I can see chat comments too, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Oh yeah, just maybe to throw that out there to the audience, to everyone who's watching. We do have a little delay in between what we do and what you see, so there's like 10 to 20 seconds delay. So if your questions aren't answered on the spot, don't worry, it'll take us 20 seconds to get them.
Right.
Okay, now I have the chat. I can see everybody, and I'm not interfering with your sound. So I believe if there was an echo earlier, that was me, and I couldn't figure out.
Yeah, exactly. I just turned you down a whole lot.
Oh,
Because Ariana and me, we are both of the same opinion that headphones suck.
Yeah.
And playing bass through headphones is just no fun.
Exactly.
So we are taking the risk to getting echoes and feedbacks by not using them, and we'll have to find out how it works. But apparently we are managing. Someone's asking what?
Where you are from.
Oh, someone's asking where I am from. I didn't mention, did I? So I'm from Cologne, Germany. And ironically, Ariana is the first German-speaking guest on my show. So we could switch this now and just chat in German for the rest of the show. But yeah, on one hand, we won't do that because we want all of you to understand us. But wenn es doch ein paar Deutsche im Publikum gibt, die nicht so gut Englisch sprechen, ihr dürft eure Fragen auch gern in Deutsch stellen und ausnahmsweise beantworten wir die dann auch in kurz gefasster Version gerne in Deutsch für euch. Alright. Ariana's having tickle fingers. She already needs to...
We just lost the camera. Hang on. Just one, but that's the main one. Sometimes when you try to fix things, you know, we have these, both you and I, Mischa, have these angels in our lives who are, you know, helping us set this up, get this ready, be behind the scenes, and without who we could not do that. So thanks to Wolf and your wife, who I just briefly met.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the second, now I think it's, no, it's not working. You have to switch it on. It doesn't have power.
No.
We'll be back momentarily. Hang on. Doesn't have power. The light is on. Then why can't it? Oh, yeah, I see it. Okay. Yeah, I see it. Okay. What were you going to say? I'm so sorry, Mischa. I'm back.
I actually wanted to let you play, but as far as I can tell now, you're blurry again on the big camera. It seems to reset its focus.
Blurry, out of focus.
Other way.
Other way. He has I think he can see.
So, just so you know, you can see through all the trouble that we have to go to set up a show like this.
Yeah.
So even if it costs you your email address, you get a whole lot for
little back.
little price.
The other way. And now I know, but keep going in this direction. I think keep going. It's just a second, guys. Keep going. Now it's getting worse actually, and maybe so try again the other direction. I know there are only two. I know. Keep going. It's the right direction, but go slow. Keep going. Thanks for your patience, guys. It's not innovating at all. Keep going. A little more. You're going in the right direction. Keep going. More. It's getting better. We're getting there. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm way further than I was.
No,
Slowly
good.
see the
Keep going.
strings
Don't worry
again.
about that. I have no idea. Keep going. It's getting better. Keep going. A little more. 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 There.
By the way, I just saw there's a comment. Someone likes the logo on this shirt.
It is a cool shirt. Oh, that one is a very cool shirt. And I'm seeing in the comments we're getting, yeah, cheers for Wolf. And am I now in focus? I cannot respond to the. It's because I'm not
You could
locked
be
in.
more in focus.
Still,
We'll do a little more then.
very blurry.
Just a little bit more.
I can just start playing.
But
all
yeah,
this-
you can get
but that
this
might be a
logo
little
printed on cups, shirts,
A
hoodies.
little more.
Oh no,
little
not
more.
on hats.
Little
At
more.
my shop, mischamarks.com. Check the ask a question box. There's 2 answer questions in there. Where can I find out? Yeah, that looks good, Ariane.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. We're in focus.
There's one
right.
question that's answered. Where can I find out more about Ariane Cap, where all her links are listed? And then there's another answered question, which is where can I find out more about Mischa Marcks, and all my links are listed. So you can check that out after the show, though.
Real control knobs. We have real control knobs. They're just not where you need them. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Mischa,
Are you ready
want
to go?
start? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Let me think what I do.
Then I'm gonna.
I'll do a little mashup.
Okay,
I'm
I'll
gonna
give the
step
stage
over
to you.
genres. I'm not gonna care about rules. I'm just gonna have fun, hopefully. Thank you. Thank you. I figured out. Thank you. Thank you. Get the right camera going. So here we go.
That was great. Thank you for that
Thank
one.
you. So from disco to Bach, I guess it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a stretch, but it's fun to do.
It worked out somehow.
Well, the one of the reasons why it does is because both I Will Survive, which was the disco tune, as well as the Bach tune, celebrate our diatonic harmony in very similar ways.
Yeah.
Survive, I Will Survive is the diatonic cycle in minor, and Bach's compositions are full of that stuff. So there's some sort of a bridge,
Cool. Okay, I'll leave the stage to you.
That's your homework next week, says Brett. That's funny for the practice groups. Yeah, you want me to talk a little bit about some of the things I did, or? Cool. So one of the things I do in that tune is I use a Hocket delay. This is a technique that I learned from my duo partner, Paul Hansen, who's an absolute master of using a delay pedal. So most people know a delay kind of is just adding a little bit of richness of sound, but the way I use it is I essentially double my notes. If you do it right, you double your notes. So if I play, without like this piece, if I play that without the delay pedal, it's... And you have to phrase a little bit differently, because if you phrase it too long, you got to wash. So you have to be kind of mindful of that. It's also, when I play with the delay pedal, I like to play with just one finger so that the sound is as even as possible. And the settings that I use, they're essentially, you put feedback to 0 and you have a dotted eighth note, and I space the dotted eighth notes just so that I get continuous 16th notes. So that's my delay and that's my quarter notes, and now I play eighth notes. And you get into this sort of roll where you are ending up with with continuous 16th notes. And it's hecka fun because you can, you know. Whatever you do will kind of sound good because you automatically have through that delay like a set of it's a thing because it kind of like just repeating those eighth notes kind of sounds cool because you get these rapid fire 16th notes. Now, if you get to make a mistake, you're obviously going to hear it twice, so that's not so good.
Yeah, I would say it's almost like playing with a band, like a little band in a pocket, that type of delay. You really have this whole harmony layer that adds on top of the music that you play.
Well, I love about it that it makes you sound real big. You know?
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to do for anybody who's kind of getting into solo bass. This is a great way to sort of beef up your sound without, you know, you can use any delay pedal. I use the TC flashback, but you can use any delay pedal, even if it doesn't have a setting. You just program it by stomping on it, and there's your delay. So it's a fun thing to explore. And I also recommend to my students when you practice scales, you know, or arpeggios, you know, so anything through the cycle, you know. You know, you can do anything and it'll sound way better and it'll entertain you and it'll give you a little bit of a sense of a beat. Now, it's not like a metronome because you can speed up and you can slow down within reason, and you have to be a little careful because if you do too much of it, you start stepping on yourself, which you can use as a device, which I did a couple of times. But within reason, it gives you sort of a time frame, so it keeps you sort of honest as well. So if there are any questions about that, I am super happy to answer them. I just have a little bit of a delay, I believe, to seeing you guys' things. Hock it in the pockets is great. So yeah, it's called the Hock It delay. I made a video somewhere on there where you can see exactly how to do it, which delay pedal settings to use and all that good stuff. Okay, but I'll move on to a second tune. Yes? Mischa? All right. This one is a cover. You all know it. I love it. I hope you do too. Here's my bass version of it. Hang on. Pedals. Okay. This is working, and I got to get my macros right, and I will make sure I remember to put the drawer away, because you had a beautiful view on the drawer, didn't you? Let me just find my macros. Gosh, all these screens, and I still can't find what I'm looking for. All right, here we go. Run, play. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Right.
A little Stevie there.
Yeah. Can't ever have enough Stevie, can you?
I agree. Whether it's bass line or thing. And all I did was essentially to use live looping. And I have always have backup in case something happens. So I did mess up a little bit. I felt like in the first loop, so I flew in the backup. And thankfully I can do that on the fly. But it's always, live looping is always a little nerve-wracking. So it's a fun challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a couple of songs as well where it's really like just a millisecond too late and the whole groove is ruined.
Yeah. But then sometimes you have to be creative and work with like I played at Loopfest once, and they had also, it's like this very quirky festival in Santa Cruz in California, where they invite people from all over the world. Everybody pays their own way. Nobody gets paid. Everything is just, at least when I did it back then. I don't know if it's changed, but there's people from all over. They just use looping. That's the only combining factor, right? And there was this very young, very tender woman from Germany, I think. She was from some German or Holland or something. And she played with a mandolin. So everything about her was like really delicate and tender. And when she laid down her first groove, she had a little cable noise, like something like that. And it happened to be just exactly where the loop was coming around. So she kept it. And it was the best thing ever. It just made it, this combined with her tender personality and just this being live and raw and real, it was just amazing. So, if you can float with the mistake, that's even better.
Yeah, exactly.
Or with the unplanned.
Yeah, I feel Steve Lawson has gone down that rabbit hole quite far with his glitchy beats as well.
Yeah.
And the way he just improvises on the spot.
Steve Lawson is definitely one of the reasons why I got into solo bass. So just his kind of approach to essentially just allow yourself to not give a damn. That's pretty.
Yeah, that would be my first question to you. How did you get into solo bass? How did you hear about it the first time? Realize that it even was possible? Because I know from talking to all my guests that most of them got a lot of how would you say, discouraging feedback when they were saying, oh, I'm going to do some solo bass. Solo bass, who wants to hear that?
Yeah,
what
100%.
Convinced you that it was a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, I always was interested in tinkering and trying things. And I was used to trying things a little bit on my own, because I remember when I was a kid and learning piano, always wanted to sort of come up with my own stuff, but that wasn't really appreciated because you're supposed to learn to read and don't color outside lines, you know. So
Yeah.
that was a tradition back then. I'm not complaining. I got a lot of excellent education out of it. But what I really started valuing is sort of just when I saw Michael Mannering, Steve Lawson, Jeff Schmidt at the time, big solo player in the Bay Area. When I saw them do what they do, there was this sort of, it's okay to do that, right? So whatever I was doing in my bedroom, just me and my bass, and I was always interested in looping. I was interested in melodies. I was interested in chords. That's why I also got myself a 6-string. And tapping came really easy to me because I'm a piano player from very little onward. And that was just kind of that movement with the two-handed tapping is kind of familiar on the piano. So I was very curious to just try things and started doing that. And then I met Paul Hansen, who is an amazing bassoonist, and him and I founded the duo Un. And we met through this amazing bass player by the name of Derek Jones, Las Vegas bass player who's just amazing. And he recommended we connect, and we did. And, you know, it was kind of like, oh, you mean I can play this stuff that I've been sort of experimenting with? And then Paul unpacks amazing stuff on top of it. And there was a duo born and a real passion inside me, because that was now this was a whole other level with the second person there. And, you know, the bassoon has a huge range, as do I. Yeah. And what I still can't get over is that Paul has 2 more notes than me on the low end. So that's a real problem. He has a B flat and an A.
You need a detuner.
Yeah, exactly. But he has a huge range. And, you know, with the pedals he uses, he has a ton of different ways of creating sound structures and soundscapes. And so I get to solo, I get to lay down chords, I get to play grooves, you know, so we have a blast. Yeah. And yeah, it all started for me with, you know, Michael Mannering, Steve Lawson, Jeff Schmidt. There are a lot of solo bass players now that I'm a huge fan of, like Charles Berthoud. I love what Davey 504, you know, you can say about him what you want, but I just love it.
No, he's great.
You know? That's all I got to say. And so I just really appreciate the variety and the breadth. Josh Cohen is another bass player that I'm a super huge fan of, what he does with solo bass and Bach and two-handed tapping of Bach stuff and what have you. So there are some amazing cats out there. How about you? How did you get into it, Mischa?
Well, it's kind of rooted in my story of how I became a bassist in the first place. I always, especially in the beginning of having to put up with bass, I had 2 big disappointments. The first one was, oh damn, it has 2 less strings than a guitar. How lame. And then the second was, what? I'm only allowed to play 1 note at a time?
Oh no.
How more boring can an instrument get? And yeah, from there, I already told you the story about me being really lucky having as a first teacher Lars Lehmann, which is in Germany a bass legend, but internationally he's been also quite busy, so maybe some of you folks know him. And yeah, he can do everything from solo bass to duo to just holding down the groove. But he showed me that bass is so much more than just playing the root note on the one. And from there on, I really went down this rabbit hole of figuring out all these techniques. And I started out with metal. So it was always, the more notes you can fit in the short amount of time, the better the song will be.
Did you play with a pick, Mischa?
No, I mean, I do now, but I have never in my metal times. That was for me was like, no. The metal players that play with a pick are the ones that no one can hear, that just copy what the guitar player does. If you want to be heard as a bassist in metal, you gotta slap and tap. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that statement is true, but that's what I thought. And so that's what I did. And then I started to study music. And the first thing my teachers told me was like, oh, you know, like, you've got technique down. We don't need to worry about that. Let's work on your groove, because your groove's not very steady and strong. So for the first year, I've just been working on straight 8th notes and 16th notes to really feel the pulse and get all that what a bass actually needs to do in a band, get that really down. And I really enjoyed that. And after the studying, I played session gigs and played in loads of different bands where all of that was used. But I always felt a little bit sad about all the technique that I practiced during my metal days, and now there was no application for it. And yeah, at some point, I just did an exercise, spread triad voicings, and just playing with the inversions, and that was the first song in about an hour or something. I was like, maybe there's some potential there. And I got a looper and wrote my first looper song, and it kind of, I don't want to say snowballed from there, because after the third song, I had hit a total creative wall where I was like, okay, what now? I presented everything I can. So now I gotta write music for music's sake. That's a different challenge than just showing off technique.
Yeah.
But yeah, 10 years later, I came out with a debut album, and which is now 2 years old. And now in the middle of recording my second album, which is going to be all solo-bass cover versions, because as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, I'm the guy who thinks that bass is all you need. And I find that basically you just proved that as well, because with both songs, one could right away tell which song that is, and it was a complete song, which was one of the things that Carl also mentioned on the show. I don't know if you know Carl Clues, YouTube bassist. He was saying that, especially in this lockdown time, he feels sorry for the bassists that are now sitting at home and just chugging bass lines, as he named it, because sometimes you just want to play a whole piece of music, something that's complete. And for the most part, arranging a solo bass song teaches you so much about leaving space for the other instruments. Because if you have a really busy bass line, you won't be able to play the melody and chords at the same time. And if you use a looper, which I still often fall trapped to, I record that busy bass line, which sounds super cool with just a groove, and then I start playing a melody on top or a solo, and it's just getting too busy. And I say, okay, damn, did it again. But yeah, and lastly, it was also a family decision, because I became a father 10 years ago, and I was reconsidering my vision of becoming a on-the-tour bassist for the rest of my years. It's like, working from home has its benefits, and if I have a child, I want to take advantage and spend as much time with them as I can.
That's great. I can relate to so much of what you were saying there. Just how much of a better arranger and musician it makes you when you all of a sudden don't just see your own little world, your bass line and maybe the drummer, but you're looking at the whole. And yeah, I can relate to a lot of that.
You play different instruments as well, don't you?
Well, I came up as a piano player. I did classical piano, and I did mostly classical for most part of my first 20 years of my life almost.
Wow.
But I got so much good stuff out of it, I was just not exposed to jazz, pop, rock, funk, I just wasn't. But I had this solid classical education. I could read really well. I could, understood theory. I understood phrasing. When you learn classical piano, especially the way I learned it back then, you weren't allowed to play fun pieces until you had very basic technique down. And while I think that's a little bit over the top, there's also a lot of really good you learn when you have a solid technique thing. I remember I had the music book that I was using for the first entire year. It came with this little thing that you had to put over your head. It was a piece of paper essentially with a hole in it. You had to put it over your head, and then you would slide it under the book so you couldn't see your fingers. Man, I hated that thing. So you had to sort of feel it where the notes are and where the keys are. It was hecka annoying, but did it teach me a lot? Yes, of course,
Yeah.
But it's just things like that where you understand like a really good basic technique. It gets you so far, and it saves you so much pain, literally and figuratively later,
We do have a couple of questions from the audience already, but I want to kind of get back to what you just said. I find as a teacher it's always challenging to find out how much of that technique, flawless technique, do I put onto my student before I demotivate them and bore them because it's not fun and starts feeling like homework back at school again. How do you deal with that?
Oh, that's such a great question. Yes. For one, I try to keep the mind busy because permutation exercises, which is one of my favorite technique exercises, how I practice technique. Sorry, I'm plugging. Sorry, guys. So, when we have 4 fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4. All my students who are on there are going to chuckle now probably because they know me. I do this every single time. And you can shuffle these 4 numbers in ever so many ways, right? There's 24 with just those 4, but then you can double up certain ones. You can put 1 finger on 1 string and you can, it's literally endless. You can do them in this way. You can do them this way. You can do them in zigzag fashion, So there's a never ending storage of fingering drills that you do. And if people say, well, that's kind of boring or whatnot, I can fix that real quick. Say note names while you do it. Put on the metronome and play, I don't know, play triplets, then play 16th notes, then play, play a group of, like these kind of group things are 6, right? 1 E and a 2 E. So it's more than, it's like 6 beats, right? So you do 6 beats over a 4/4. There's so many ways how you can make this harder. And what I also use these practices for is occupy your mind with something you want to change in your technique setup. So a lot of folks come in that have habits like, stretch my fingers way too far. Scott Devine calls it flying fingers. I love that expression. So just keep them close to the fretboard. So now all of a sudden you're doing something like 2, 1, 3, 4, and you do it. Maybe you have a click going here or something like whatever to 92 here. So let me do it as 16th notes. And then keep your fingers down. So do this, not this, right? Because when I want to speed that up, good luck when you do this extra movement, or we do even simple ones, just like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And most people can do those at a pretty fast tempo even, but I'm going to occupy your mind by saying keep your fingers down. So when you play the 2, keep the 1 down. When you play the 3, keep 1 and 2 down. When you play 4, keep all of them down, right? Because a lot of people do this. And then becomes clear that, adding, and then when we do it backwards, actually, even more so, when we do backwards, you want to have all 4 of them down and then lift them, right? And then it becomes clear that a lot of people work by adding a note. That's the only way they sort of can conceptualize how a note is produced, just by adding something. But if I say just take it away in time, coordinated with the right hand, so stop me at any point if I go too long, Mischa. But it's there's a lot you can keep your mind occupied with while you do those. That takes the boredom away like that. Then the other trick I use is I say, don't do 10 hours of this, 5 minutes at the most, 3 minutes, 1 round, once up, done. And the other thing I do is I incorporate it in songs. So we have, in some of my courses, we have etudes that use these. And one thing I once did was, because people say, why do you ever need that? Well, you do. I went through the James Jamerson book. For those of you who know it, it's the Standing in the Shadows of Motown. And I was just circling wherever there was a permutation. Man, that thing was full of circles, because all these chromatic approaches, that's essentially, what these kind of things are. So it's really powerful, useful, and it's so good when you have just a tech drill where all you're thinking is the technique. You're not thinking at the least in what's the singer do? Am I too loud? How's my phrasing? I picked the wrong note. None of that. Your focus is just on the finger, and that frees you up. And so I love technique exercises. And so far, I haven't had anybody run and screaming from the room. So
Very good. Okay, shall we take some questions from the audience? We've got Dan Albert. Oh my god, they're coming in now. So Dan Albert asks, can you suggest some ensemble recordings where the whole idea of the bass universe is beautifully and tastefully demonstrated? If you please do. Thanks.
For self bass or for...
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit too. But ensemble recordings, I guess, then in a band context, but maybe fleshing it all out. I guess anything Victor Wooten does is going through the whole thing from simple, solid foundation to write out virtuoso solo playing.
I would second that. Michael Mannering has some beautiful recordings with others. I'm not off the top of my head. I don't know which albums he's on, but he often kind of puts in a little something, that's quite typical, his sound, signature sound. But I mean, one bass player that always comes to mind as for having a very melodic approach, obviously, is Paul McCartney, because his bass lines are just so fitting with the song. And so if you hear him just on their own, like Something, for example, it's just like a beautiful melody on its own, and it magically fits perfectly with the song. So it's, and there's a certain magic to it. You can say you need to stay out of the way, you need to have a range of the bass, but if somebody is playing a melody in a lower range, you have to stay out of the way, either by you going up or by you going lower, or playing real spacious or simple or something like that. But sometimes you break all the rules and it sounds great, Yeah. So it's just an interesting study to see what works and what doesn't. But other ensembles, I guess Wolfpack would be another one where the bass has an interesting role to play. But
really, any well-known bass player, anything they record, any music that has bass in it,
Stanley.
it really, maybe you can re-ask that question and go a little bit more into detail what you're exactly looking for, because the whole universe of bass, that's every bassist in this world has something to give to you that you can be inspired by or learn from. So I wouldn't try to find the only one. I would just look and find what kicks you, what makes you want to grab your bass and play for yourself. I guess that's the best music you can find. Oh wait, I actually have a good idea where I can send you. I don't have that in the chat yet, but we put it in the end of the show. I created a couple of playlists on Spotify. One's called Amazing Bassists, and the other one is called Solo Bassists or something like that. So that would probably be a good mix of different bassists, from solo bassists to session players. And it's all pretty, how would you say, the extraordinary type of bass.
Mm-hmm.
Leland Sklar is not one of them. It's not on the list, let's put it this way. But yeah, you mentioned something really interesting, that Paul McCartney's bass lines are very melodic. And that's one thing that I've learned through playing a lot of reggae music, is that bassists are really the only melodic instrument in the rhythm section. Did you ever realize that?
Yeah, our job is to make a melody over a harmony, right?
Exactly.
That's exactly what they hire us for. So it's an interesting connection between, the two things.
And in reggae, for example, you have this rhythm system where, for example, Stir It Up. Everybody knows this bass line and recognizes the song by the bass line, not necessarily by the melody that Bob Marley sings in the verse.
Yeah, totally true.
And the rhythm concept works like this, that basically any artist can take this instrumental tune and sing his own melody on top of it. So you really recognize the songs by the bass lines, not by the melodies.
Yeah.
Thought that's very unique to reggae, but then if you really listen to music with an analytical ear, there's a lot of those songs in all types of genres.
You just said something interesting, listening with an analytical ear. And I think whenever you start to create your own stuff, you start listening differently. I mean, that's really, and you mentioned Lee Sklar, and I'm sure both of us are huge fans of his. You just mentioned him as an example of, just solid and beautiful and excellently phrased, and the guy's a killer player. But we start listening very, very, very differently, and I think that's useful. Even if you see yourself as not ever doing a solo bass show or whatever, but it's also, I have a few students. He started late in life, But she comes in with her six string and she wants to sing while she plays. And I mean, it is just so beautiful to watch her grow. I mean, she's still learning basics and all, but she can sing and she can bring in, she wants to do jazz standards, and there's so many beautiful things you can do. And man, she can take that to a cafe, a little gallery, she can take that out, and I hope she does, because she's getting to that point. And even if you don't see yourself as that type of bass player, don't be too quick to disregard it.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, here's
Here
a quick
you
one.
play.
Quick
Huh?
question. Wait. Let's just get
Here
those.
you
The
play.
questions keep coming. We're going to do a couple of questions. Otherwise, we'll be there all night. Pro and cons of zero fret. What's your take on that one? I have an opinion.
I love my zero fret. The zero fret is right here. It is this
Oh, wait.
first
Let
fret.
me switch you on full screen.
Okay.
Otherwise.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. I'll just be there for a second. Okay, so you can see the zero fret is right here. It's right before the nut. And there's two versions of zero frets, as I understand it. My husband has a Ken Smith where the nut is made of metal, right? And one idea of the zero fret is that if it's metal, it sounds like you are fretting a fretted note, right? When I play the open note, it vibrates towards metal because that fret is there now picking up the sound, right? So that's one reason why I think bass builders do it. The second reason, as I understand it, is that it gives you a little bit more flexibility in the setup of the bass. And especially on my tapping bass, I like low action, not on this one so much because I do a lot of studio stuff and I do a lot of grooving and I like to dig in and I don't want to get noises. But if I have my six string set up exclusively for tapping, and for that, I like a lower action, and it's, it kind of, I believe there is something to that it helps with the setup. So if there are luthiers in the chat or whatnot, please correct if there's anything wrong that I'm saying. But I understand that the main idea behind the zero fret is to do that and to get the sound as if it's a fretted bass. What's your view on it, Mischa?
Honestly, I've never heard of the two reasons you just named. So for me, it was basically, I had a couple of basses where I had problems with changing different string gauges and then just grinding out that nut.
The nut or the fret?
Oh no, the nut. So basically, for example, here, this was this Ibanez. I can't really see it.
I love these
Back here.
basses. My
That
first
was the
bass.
first bass that I bought with my own money. It doesn't have a
too.
zero fret, and what happens?
It does or it doesn't?
It doesn't. Let me just take
Yeah.
it off. Here. See, it's just like a plastic nut, and then straight to the fretboard. And at some point I decided, oh, you know what? I'm gonna take off the B string and put on a C string. But now all these grooves are way too deep and too wide, so the strings kind of sink in, and you have to layer it up to not have the strings too low and rattle all the way. And I find that zero string just gives you a little bit more workability or flexibility in string gauges without having to sit there with a file each time you change your string gauges. But I really like that theory of it sounds like a fretted note. Because I'm a big fan of avoiding open strings exactly for that reason, because they just sound so different.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, let's do one more questions. Do you have a string gauge preference? I know I do. Mine is not very common. I have 100 on E string, then 80 for A, 60 for D, 40 for G, and then, here comes the kicker, 30 for C.
Wow.
So my C string is really, really thick compared to the other ones are really thin, and the C string is really thick. And Adrian, who's actually the sponsor, Marushchik Instruments, official sponsor of the show, I forgot to mention, he gave me the set when he built me this bass and said like, oh, I think you should try this out. And I played it, and because I was really, really scared what I felt a lot of six-string basses were missing, and now I know that it's mainly the string gauges, is that when you switch to that C string, all of a sudden it sounds like guitar, like a different instrument on a lot of basses. And I've felt that this kind of having this really thick C string makes this problem go away. It really
Yeah.
feels like one instrument to me.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
How about you? Do you use different gauges on different basses, or?
I do. I don't ask me the exact gauges. I believe my G is 44, but I use SR 2000s by Dean Markley. I absolutely love those strings. I've been in situations where I had to play a bass that I wasn't so comfortable with. I changed the string and I'm fine.
Oh,
It's
cool.
literally, I am so comfortable with those strings. Unfortunately, they seem to be discontinuing them. So what I love about them is that they get real skinny in the end. So I think that's called tapered. It's different than taper core, I believe. But they get real skinny here. So if you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
So, and because of that, they have just a tiny little touch point with the bass itself. And because of that, they ring more. I don't know. But years ago, Wolfgang, my husband and teacher and partner in crime, he did a series of just took a bunch of basses, had them all, one bass, a bunch of strings, a bunch of different string sets, line them all up, put them all on, recorded the exact same thing with the exact same setting. And these strings just won hands down. When you could hear it back to back, they were louder, they were clearer. And they're just so comfortable to play. They're really hard to get. I have recommended them to some students and they absolutely hated them. And I believe one of the reasons is because they are so tapered, you have to change the setup on your bass because they kind of go down, right? And the other thing is you can break E strings, B strings. I've busted all the big ones. So it happens because they break here in the end. But I boil mine in alcohol. It prolongs their life. I think I'm on this set now for a year or something, and I just keep boiling it over and over. At some point, you can't anymore because the strings will, make indents, and then you have to take them out. But boiling in alcohol for 30 seconds, stinks very much. You can set your house on fire, so be careful if you have gas. But it is a great way to prolong string life, and yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little rest then, and we're gonna get.
Please, I want to hear you play.
Other questions in a bit, and I'm gonna play some tunes. All right, see you in a minute.
All right.
So, hop, hop. Can you still hear me? Oh, no. Let me just say something about the tune first. So this song is from my debut album, Open Path, and I chose it extra for the collaboration with Ariane because it's not really Baroque, but it has this classical attitude to it, and it's called Sonatine, which I thought was just a very cool Japanese gangster film. But when I looked up what sonatine really means, is just a tiny little sonate. So usually played by a solo instrument. I couldn't have made a better choice. So yeah, check it out and enjoy. And let me know how the sound is. I hope nothing's distorting. I hope everything's loud enough. Just making sure. Here we go. Oh, see?
That was super.
I bought these shoes, and you have to imagine the look that I got from my wife bringing these shoes home. Like, why this color? And then
Match the bass.
they're bass shoes. That's all it is.
Commitment.
So yeah, this was a solo. Oh no, the next one's.
Asking about your bass.
Someone's asking about my bass.
Yeah. What bass is it?
Oh, what bass is this? Yeah, okay, let's use this opportunity and give thanks to our sponsor, Marcks Instruments. You can still kind of hear under the hairband, see the little M.
Yeah, they're asking about if that's what do you call it?
String
Fret
mute.
wraps.
Yeah, I actually tried the professional string mutes with a Velcro on it to get it just in the right position, but it doesn't work for me with solo bass because it's hardly ever that I play a whole song with a fret mute on the strings. I have to be able to move it on the spot, and I can only do that if it's a hairband. Otherwise, oh wait, you can't see it. Let me just go to another perspective. So, where can I put this where you can see it? I guess you can see it. So I generally have it here, but for example, if I have one song where I start with a tapping. I don't remember the song now. But where I'm really busy with two hands tapping, and I want the open strings to be muted. But then, after I record my loop, I shift that down right away, because after that I'm gonna need some open strings to play the other parts. And I just need it more flexible. I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure if that was the question. Awesome.
And the bass.
And yeah, the bass, people keep asking me, or telling me, oh, you've got a nice Fodera there. And the truth is, this is the Sputnik, Marcks Sputnik. So I designed this bass, inspired obviously by the Emperor 2 of Fodera. But first of all, it was too scary for me to pay, what is it, somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 for a bass to someone which I haven't met in person, where I can't even just quickly drop by and see how the process is going and adjust some things on the fly. So I decided to go local, and I've got rewarded by that, because if you go local with your bass buying and bass fixing, you can always get it fixed quickly. If you have basses from around the world, as much as they might be the best basses in the world, getting those fixed can be a real pain in the bum. I don't know about you, Ariane, but I'm already having trouble shipping my bass in Germany. International shipping, it's just too scary for me. I'd have to carry it there.
Yeah. And it's hard to give somebody you don't know your bass.
Yeah.
And so I once had a guy cut into my 0 fret because he didn't understand what it was. He sort of thought it was the nut, so it got awful. It had to be fretted. It was horrible. So yeah, I like Gerald to be fixing them whenever possible, but usually I don't need much maintenance. So
yeah, even better. I mean, another thing that I'm getting more and more into is just doing all the fixing myself.
right.
I think that every bassist who's at least semi-serious should know how to adjust the neck and string height, intonation, all of that stuff.
Sure.
But I can also understand why it would be too scary for some people, especially with the neck. You can mess it up and then it's proper messed up. It's not so easy to undo the damage that you do to the neck when you go too far.
So true.
And yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm an explorer or adventurer in that regard. The latest thing I got is a little tool set to level my frets. So I'm gonna test that on this baby here first. See, hone my skills, so to say, because this is actually going to become a fretless bass at some point. So even if I completely botch it, no problem. And I know I won't do it on this one. I will give this one to professional hands. But if I manage, then I can do it to this bass as well. And I can really do it exactly how I want it, when I want it. And maybe even offer it as a service to students.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play one more song, and then we're going to take some more questions, I'd say. So the next song, just like the second of Ariana's song, is a cover version. And I'm not going to tell you the title, so you're going to have to guess. I'll do that every show. This time, though, we have over 280 sign-ups now, I think.
Nice.
So let's see how many correct answers we get. I want to know title of the song and the composer, which is not the same as the artist who made the song famous, popular. So, dig deep. Here we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ah, to me, that's the biggest disadvantage of these online live events is the applause. I mean, it doesn't only have to be applause. It's also just the eyes, the expression of the faces from everyone you play for. Just to not get that feedback, only get it in text form. It's so disappointing, I almost want to say. Because you're so used to it from playing live shows that once you're finished, you get something, even if it's negative, it's like boo, but there's a reaction. You're interfering with someone else's life, and I have to say, even though this is just the button, it feels so much better to just hear that. Woo! So yeah, I didn't follow the chat now, obviously, while I was playing. But has the question been answered?
For Caro and Betsy's,
Yes. Yes. Who's that?
Jeff Mattern.
Jeff, you nailed it.
I think he was a third. Chris, oh no, Steve and John Bettis. No, somebody said it before.
Oh, okay.
There was various.
Okay, various. Thank you. I'm so glad to speak to an educated crowd. Because the truth is, most people, I mean, a lot of people already find it hard to, or already don't know Human Nature, the Michael Jackson song, that well that they would recognize it on solo bass. But almost no one knows that Michael Jackson isn't really the songwriter and that it's written by the guys from Toto. And there's actually quite a funny story how that whole song ended up on the album. It wasn't supposed to be written for Michael Jackson, but it was on the B-side of a tape that they sent the producer. So on the A-side, they had the song that Michael actually was supposed to sing, and they didn't really like that, but the tape, I think, even had auto reverse, and then it just played the other side, and then, but we really like that song. Can we have that one? So yeah, shall we do some? Although, wait, before we get back to the questions, I want to mention some things. So you all got here for free, and I want to keep it that way. But nevertheless, it would be super awesome if you could support me, the show, and all of my guests like Ari, either directly. We both have a PayPal button link when in our performance windows. Let me just quickly switch through them. Ariana's, and down there's mine. But you can, of course, support us in many, many different ways. You can also buy stuff from our shops. Mainly that's music and merch with me, books with Ariana, shirts. You've got some merch too as well, right?
I do have a shop. Yeah, shop.arispaceblock.com.
Okay. That link you didn't give me. You just gave me your Amazon link.
I get lost with my own links. Yeah, I did. The Amazon link is for the book, for sure.
But we'll put it into the answer questions where all the links are of us too. Awesome. But yeah, you don't. Financially supporting us is not the only way to support us. You can share this event, you can share our pages, you can share our music on Spotify, you can share our websites with friends, you can invite people to our mailing list. If you're already on it, you can sign up to our email list. You can follow me on Crowdcast so you know each time another Mission Based Live is going to happen, which is basically every last Saturday of the month. And last but not least, Facebook groups. That's where the real action happens for both of us, I think. That's where we're most active on social media, and that's where we have the most conversation and discussion, really, with our students, with our fellow musicians, and with our audience. Both of those links are also in the answer question box, and Now we're gonna check out some questions. Ari, this one's for you. Is Ari using a brief drop hand relaxation technique? I've never heard that before.
Well, one of my latest talking technique episodes describes one of my favorite exercises, and maybe that's what the questioner is referring to. But it essentially, our biggest enemy when playing, and you really can play a long time as long as you're pain-free and you're lucky to have a healthy body. You can play a long time with bad habits. But if you get to a point where you want to play a tune like Dean Town or Teen Town or What is Hip or one of those rapid-fire 16th note tunes where you really have to be fast, you need to clean up your technique because otherwise it's not possible. And I have found that there are two big offenders to be able to do that. One is too much movement, so when we play fast, we have to minimize movement rather than, have a big ramp on the right hand. You just want to be really close to the strings, and the same with the left hand. Those permutation exercises, they come in really handy because you will be used to playing close to the string, And the other thing is hidden tension, and hidden tension is a bit hideous to find because it's unconscious. We might hold our breath. For years, I played with my face bunched up, like that. Or the worst kind of tension is if we are having a shoulder up by our ears or do something like this, or we crawl into the bass because there is just, music can't flow, And it's not just speed, but it's like the whole, when it feels good when you play, it looks good and it sounds good. It's like directly the relatable, And so I came up with this drill, especially trying to help people to play very fast permutation exercises. And one way I did that was, this is, for example, 120. You take any permutation. Let's take the simplest one, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You find your 16th notes. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, and you go. So you drop the hand, and what you do by doing that is and when I say drop the hand, it's often funny because I tell my students drop the hand and they go, I'm dropping my hand, Ari. This is not a dropped hand, right? We are so disconnected often from our own body that we just think this is relaxed. But what I mean by that is like the hand's like a dead fish. It's just sort of sitting there, and I have to move it with my body. Otherwise, it's just 0 calories are going to that whole arm right now, right? And when I, for just a very brief moment, bring that up, very brief moment. And then I drop it again, and I feel this delicious feeling because it feels really good. Once you start feeling, it's like, I get it. But it needs to build some sort of awareness because we're often so disconnected from our bodies. It's kind of sad, So by doing that, you start to regain control again, and you regain some sort of connection with your arm. And by bringing it up only for those 2 or 4 short notes, can do it even for 2. You start learning what it's like to play relaxed. Because even if, people give me a hard time because I play 1 finger per fret and I do that in the lower registers and whatnot, but I am completely relaxed. My fingers are just essentially, I'm just talking to the hand, I'm just looking at it. I bring it up from the relaxed state and I just look at it, and there it is. And these fingers are super relaxed. My hand is super soft. So I think relaxation and speed and minimizing motion goes hand in hand. And that was this drill that I showed in my last talking technique episode. I think it's if you go to notreble.com and then click lessons and then select talking technique, it comes right up. It's like a 20-minute lesson, not flashy. Done a lot of flashy stuff in talking technique. They always get all the hits and the clicks. But this one, I think, is one of the most underappreciated exercises because I've transformed lots of my students playing just with that drill. And it's very powerful. So
I can totally imagine that. I've never heard of this exercise, but I just did it for myself. And I have to agree, it's just this, the moment the hand goes down, you want to breathe out and relax. And that's, I have a little story like that. Because I always knew, if you want to play well and fast, you have to be relaxed. But what I did wrong, and I just guess that I'm not the only one on this planet thinking that relaxed is relaxed. But the relax that we as a musician need is an activated relaxed position, We still need to be active in an active playing position, because what I did was just slouch on the couch, feet up, and play with an arched back. Absolutely no contact to the floor with my feet or anything. And that just wrecked my arms. I had to not take a break for a whole year during my studies. And just, I used to do some ear training. So
Yeah. Oh, good one.
everything played out well, but I don't really wish it on a lot of people, but unfortunately I've had a lot of students coming to me, and nowadays often I even have students coming to me especially because they have problems, because they know I'm the guy who's gonna fix it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really one of the most important subjects as a teacher, I find, to really get that. I want to add one of my exercises to this one, so I'm gonna just turn this down for a bit, because what I found out, I probably read it somewhere, let's be honest, is that tension in the left hand often comes from pushing too hard, thinking that you have to push harder than you really need to. And obviously from bass to bass that's different. If I play this bass, I can just blow at the string and it is fretted basically. But if I play my Fender Telecaster, which has like almost 3 times the space in between string and neck, it's a different story. But still, all the force you need is gravity. That's my motto. You just need the weight of your arm to fret a string. If you just use the weight of your arm to hold onto a string, so to say that your arm doesn't fall down, obviously you have to watch a little bit out that you're not bending the string, but other than that, just the gravity of your arm, just the weight of your arm, and that's all the force you need to fret notes on most instruments. And that kind of connects with the exercise that Ari was suggesting, this really letting go. Maybe a combination of the two would work very well.
Well, I definitely love your mention of gravity in that context for sure. I like to use the weight of my right arm actually to stabilize the neck, because it's the same idea that you're bringing in, because your right arm, we pull it up to the shoulders, often it's a bad habit that can manifest itself, or people who want to just not bend their wrists, they keep the arm like this. So some floating thumb techniques can do it to you too, although I do see the value of floating thumb techniques, especially like Steve does it, Steve Lawson, or when we're doing solo bass with 6 strings, you got a muting issue here. But essentially for grooving, if you just rest your arm there, it just stabilizes the neck. So yeah, well said, great drill, like it.
Cool. Let's have a look at some other questions. Yeah. Okay. One more question, then we're gonna play some more songs. Time is probably ticking. I'm not looking. Oh, we're already done. 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, we're done. How could that happen? Okay, we really got to play some more music. One more question, then we get into the songs. Here's a question from Martin, my bass buddy. Do you ever play your soprano during a gig, or is it more of a fun instrument for you?
Is that a Marlowe soprano question?
I guess so. I don't own a soprano bass.
I have it in the other room right now, but I have brought it out for gigs once in a while. At some point I had this idea, you just bring an octave pedal and you just hit the double octave down and you can play the gig. It doesn't really work that well. A soprano, for those of you who don't know, it's exactly this bass. It's a concept by Marlowe, but it's tiny. It's like really cute. And there's a fun story that goes with it. Gerald used to make clocks for the dealers, so he would go around like as an advertisement, he would take a bass body, a Marlowe bass body, and put a clock in there so that they could hang it up and it would say Marlowe bass and all that. And then one day he's looking at it. Gerald is such a tinkerer. It's so great. And he's like, I'm going to make a bass out of that, and this is very difficult to do because you need tiny mechanics, you need tiny bridge, you need tiny everything, And so he had all that special made and the soprano was born. And it's a very different sound. So it has It's not a guitar. It's not a six string. It's got its very own character. And once in a while, on a solo bass, you might see me with it. On a solo bass kick, you might see me with it. But it's a fun instrument. It sure is.
Cool. Okay, so before I let you play, though, we're gonna give everyone a chance to win some prizes. You already mentioned Josh Cohen before. We didn't really talk about if the prize you're giving away was to a specific practice group, or if whoever wins gets to choose, or if it's whatever space is
They
open.
get to choose. They get to choose. That's just
That's
open
what
it.
I thought. So
Yeah.
maybe you'll be sitting in a practice group with Josh Cohen in September. How would that
Yeah,
be?
we're hosting him. Yeah.
So, okay, we tried this a couple of times, but we've never had so many people online live. So we're gonna try it again and see if either the people who came back learned their lesson, or if you already know your stuff. Because this show, what's Mission Bass all about? Putting bass in the spotlight. So you've got now, as long as Ariane takes for her next couple of songs, to find out, to write. Actually, let me put that. I'm gonna ask a question. I'm gonna put it in the ask the question box, so we don't have to scroll forever in the chat to find all your answers.
We can't answer.
You can't answer. Ah, damn. Okay, then you're just gonna have to answer in the chat. So the question, the challenge more than a question is: name your 5 favorite bands, and then tell us what the bass players' names are. I was pretty shocked then that on the first 2 shows that we did this, the response was very, very low. Although we basically only had bass players on the show, in the audience. So the funniest thing happened when Carl was on the show, and one of the guests was talking about a bassist that we then didn't know. So even us pros have to do some homework later on. Okay, you have a couple of minutes. Ari, I'll leave the stage to you.
Okay.
And are you ready?
I'm ready. I'll play something that's called Dreaming in Stereo.
Oh yeah.
Using my looper and see how this one goes. So it has a few. Is this how long they have? The length of the tune? Is this the idea? Okay. I'm just thinking what I do. Okay. Okay. I'll just go with. Okay. No, it's all good. Okay. I'll go with my own composition. So. Thank you.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
So it's getting a little bit warmer over here. The gear is slowly heating up in my little room. What song was that?
That was a composition of mine. I call it Dreaming in Stereo, and I do a version of that together with Paul. And it involves sort of, when I start looping it, I'm sort of thinking of is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But when I come in with the bass line, I think of it in 4/4. So it has this kind of
Okay.
floating feeling because of that, because you have a 4/4 feeling and a 6/8 on top of each other a little bit. And the idea is, I wanted to experiment with a lot of sus chords. So there's a lot of sus2, sus4 in there. And I really like when it goes to that F minor there, where I can bring out that A flat, because it's kind of in an uncommitted tonal space. It's not like diatonic at all.
Yeah.
It's just in sus world. But then I move into this really unexpected F minor. So that gives me a little bit of a chance to aim for it chromatically, because it's an unexpected note. So it's a fun tune to play. It's challenging also because of that middle section. So there's some of this double thumbing that I love doing. And that's really hard to do on these tiny thin strings. I was just actually thinking, gosh, I should try the Mischa string there with the fatter C string. I might actually like that, because they're hard to bounce off, because you're so they're just so thin, So I like the challenge though. So.
Yeah. No. I can highly recommend. 28 or 30 as a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to play another song?
I'd love to.
Then,
How many more do we have total, or give me an idea of the time, just so I can.
I mean, I can go on for hours.
I did too, and I love it. So,
So I would
I'll
say let's just keep it open end. Let's
okay.
definitely answer to all the questions. Let's see how the giveaway is going.
Do we have a winner yet?
Oh, that's a good question.
Maybe I can also tell people a little bit what a practice group is about. Would that be okay?
What?
Or if I tell people a little bit what the practice groups are
Yeah,
about, and
sure. No, definitely. I
because
want
we
this.
offer we offer several types. The price for them is I think it's 370 or 395. I'm sorry, I don't have that off the top of my head, but it's a
370.
10-week. Thank you. It's a 10-week group session, and we're all on Zoom, so you're looking at a bunch of tiles. People that's sitting at home, and it's everybody is muted, and I present something, and they put some homework into a course portal where people then know what to do, what to practice, and how to prepare. And I'm having a blast with this format because I see people, it's, when you're in one-on-one in a lesson, it's kind of very intense. There's an intense focus. People feel put on the spot easily. And in these practice groups, somebody else might just ask the question that you had on your mind or didn't even know how to ask. And so the different kinds we're offering right now is we're doing one on ear training. That's beginning in October, I believe, and where we do transcribing of songs, so especially geared for people who have maybe issues taking a song off a recording. They go to YouTube, they get lost in tab, get it wrong because tab is often very wrong. So I want to empower you to be able to hear it, to notate it, even if you've never done notation. This has worked really well in the last group, and then everybody brings in a song that they can present. So we have a lot of fun in these groups, and they're very educational. And another group that I do is the pattern system group. That's from my new book, which it's kind of like it weighs a lot. Let's put it that way. It's not the thinnest book in the world. So it's a program, it's a method. It takes a while to get through it, and it's really helpful to have a guide along the way to step you through it. So we do 2 chapters in the first group, and one group, not 2 chapters. We came out all the way up to chapter 4 in one of those groups that finished today. So we go through it step by step, and there's a lot of guidance, and it interacts with the book because the book also has blueprints for practice, what exactly to do. So it's nice to do it together, to demonstrate it, to have people improvise, take a chance, do it in front of class, volunteer, that sort of thing. So we're having a blast with that. And then we have an easygoing group, which is for more casual players who are not that serious. Pattern system, if you're serious that you want to do this because it cuts learning super short. And but if you're more of a casual player, just want to learn some songs, understand theory a little bit, be empowered to find your way on the bass, find your own voice a little bit, those are the easygoing groups. And now, starting later this next month, we have Josh Cohen as a guest, and I'm really excited about that. Josh is a good friend of mine, and he's a fantastic tapper, and he will be teaching a class on tapping, and it will be fun. So even if you've never tapped, but if what Mischa is doing there and some of the things I was doing inspires you, then that's a great, great place to start. He just came out with a book, and I believe it's his birthday today, so I know he's celebrating, but happy birthday, Josh. New book, new baby, so it's awesome. So you get the choice, whichever group you want to be part of, you can consume. So well, thanks for letting me share a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Anything to support bass in the bigger picture. And if we get to inspire more people to pick up the bass and learn more about it, and then inspire other people to pick up the bass, that's what we're here for. So Julia and I just went through the chat, and there is some winners. As far as we can tell, the first one who put a full list of 5 bands and 5 basses is Jonathan, without a second name. But we'll have your email address and everything. I think for the other prizes, we're gonna have to do that after the show, because there's so many answers and they're all hidden within the chat, to really make sure that first, second, and third are all correct. We're gonna have to have a closer look at that. But just so you know, Jonathan, you're gonna get the 10 weeks practice group ticket to You get to pick yourself which practice group you're going to join. Then we've got a second winner who has won a bundle of 3 lessons with me. It's just going to be a quick masterclass in effective learning, which includes nano practice, deep practice, and how to set up proper routine that you can keep up and hopefully extend over the course of time. Then we have a third prize, which is a set of the strings that I have on my bass. E to C, 180, 60, 40, and then 30.
Nice.
We'll send that to you. And then fourth place gets a free download of my latest album. Everyone else gets a discount code for Ari's shop for 15% and for my shop for 15% as well. We'll put that in the Ask a Question Answered questions box. For everyone who's here, you can just check that out. Also, I see there's a couple of people going because we just love bass and we can't stop talking about it, so it's getting long. You can always come back and watch the replay. Once you're signed up, the replay is going to be there for you under the same link forever and a day on Crowdcast. If you're watching on Facebook, by the way, come and hop over to Crowdcast, because if you missed the beginning or the middle, or you have to go now and can't see the end, you can watch the replay here over on Crowdcast. All right, that's it. Play us some more music, Ariana.
Okay, I think I'll play one more.
Yeah.
And there's a funny story about this one. Where I used to live in Vallejo, in the Bay Area a long time ago, but also here in Nashville, there's a lot of squirrels, and you can watch them go back and forth on the wires. So they inspired me for a tune that I call "Squirrel on the Wire," and it's really designed. Hopefully, you can hear in the tune where the squirrels are running up and down and back and forth. And it's inspired, I don't know why, but it became an African sort of inspired tune. I don't know about squirrels in Africa, but they're just their whole vibe of life, exuberance, joy was just sort of bringing that out. I wrote that tune on upright and then transferred it to the electric. And let's get a little bit more low end in here because it sounded a little thin. So it kind of turned into this fun, exuberant, kind of a little bit chaotic tune, because if you watch them, they kind of fall off the wire here and there, and so there's a lot you can do with slides. So this one is called Squirrel on a Wire, and I played that at a solo show in Brazil. Stu Ham and me were invited to do a tour in Brazil, and there was one huge stage where there was, as part of the show, an artist who had an iPad, and he was sitting in the back. And he was, I didn't mean to switch that on just now, sorry. And he was sitting in the back, and he would draw live while we were playing. And you could see the things take shape. And while I was playing, he drew like a whole bunch of squirrels. It was really funny. So that was really cool to have to play and see how it inspires a visual artist. And I didn't see it while I was playing because it was behind me. But then when I watched the replay, I was like, wow, that's really cool. So if you want to visualize some squirrels, then please go for it. Here's Squirrel on a Wire. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The squirrels are running.
Woohoo! Wow, there was a lot going on in that tune.
That's fun. It's fun to play. It's really fun
Yeah.
to play. I mean, the chords are super simple, right? But it's like, how can you make the squirrels kind of visual? So
Yeah.
it's
To me,
fun.
especially in the middle, it had this feeling of a combination of country and baroque. Country feel with baroque harmonies.
With Baroque harmony. Yeah. Well, it's a
Yeah.
1-4-5, so you can, I guess, put it in any
Uh,
era and context and that sort of thing. So yeah, squirrels. I love animals. So since we moved here to Nashville, it's been
oh
a
yeah.
smorgasbord of deer sightings and skunks
Yeah, I
and
saw them on Facebook.
so,
Um, you know what I want to do? I want to quickly run through the questions, and because we have about about 10 questions left, I'm just gonna we're just gonna give short answers. The first question is for you. Will there be more oon in the future now that you live in Nashville?
Oh yeah, there definitely will be. We actually have an album in the works. Paul is teaching close by at a university at some point later in the year, so I'll try to connect up with him there. But yeah, Un is big, big, very close to our heart. We have a second album almost in the can, so we are working on it. It just takes a little long because moving and books and all that stuff has been a bit busy. But thanks for the question.
Yeah,
Love it.
okay, cool. So, is solo bass better performed on 5 or 6 string basses? I would say no, although we both do. There's enough people out there that do just as much crazy stuff as we do on a 4 string or even on a 3 string. I've seen people. So the instrument should really. That's one thing that I want to convey about solo bass. That why I play solo bass is not because I think. I mean, I do also think that bass is the best solo instrument in the world, but that is kind of just a side effect. At the same time, I think that any musician should feel comfortable enough on his main instrument to play whatever music or just play a complete piece of music. If that's the guitar, if that's the flute, if that's the piano, the drums, it doesn't really matter. Anything can be played as a solo instrument because it's really just something that you channel your creativity through. And the tool doesn't really matter. Although bass is the best tool for the job, but it shouldn't really matter.
I completely agree. And I mean, solo bass can be done on 4 string too, where it's Michael Manning, you know. So absolutely, it's just a tool. What I like about the 6 string, and I'm sure that's why you choose what you choose to, is you just can't. You have more access. You know, you can play chords that otherwise you wouldn't be able to play. But it only has 5 more notes than a 5 string. You know, those 5 up top there. So whatever tool you got, do it.
Exactly. And sometimes limitations, or often limitations, make you more creative. So see it as a challenge. If you only have a 4 string bass, you want to go solo bass, go learn on that one. I started out with a tiny 1-track looper, and I worked that thing until it died, basically. And then I said, okay, now it's time to extend and get a looper with 3 parallel tracks. And you learn more if you go step by step and try to work around the limitations that you have in the current situation than when you just buy the next thing that's going to make it easier. I often fall into that trap myself, still do, but I always advise against it. Next question. That was one of my questions. If you study classical music, because I started playing classical guitar, which led me to the bass and having fun. You, Edward McCall, you definitely need to watch the replay with Carl Clues, because he has exactly the same story. He started out as a classical musician, is now doing mainly solo bass, still also a well-booked session musician. But yeah, if you're starting from classical guitar, you've got everything you need to start your solo bass career. Next one. Okay, one of my partners was commenting on orchestral music, how the bass instrument support contribute to the music. More than one bass, for example. Dan Albers. That was the guy who was asking for ensembles that portray the bass. So I guess you answered your own question. Next question. What or who inspires you, Ari, as a musician?
I go through phases, you know, who I listen to. Right now I'm into Charles Berthoud. I listen to Josh. I listen to Michael Manring. I always want to know what he's up to. I pick up Victor's stuff. You know, there is also this, that I'm just so busy right now with, you know, everything that's been going on. I don't listen enough. I mean, I listen for students when we have I transcribe 3 or 4 tunes a week, and for various classes or students. You know, students bring me stuff, so I'll make a proper chart with them and that sort of thing. So I do a lot of that. But for me to just sit down and listen without it being because I want to learn something, or because I want to, have a certain agenda for a student or a class, is very rare. And I'm grieving that a little bit, because it's wonderful to be inspired. And one thing, though, that's absolutely amazing is if you marry your bass teacher, then you have a constant string of inspiration coming. So Wolfgang, my husband, used to be my my bass teacher. And then I wanted private lessons, if you get the idea. And he is playing guitar viol these days. He's always doing stuff on the bass. He's a composer mostly these days, and approaches, everything he does from this holistic, what's the emotion you want to bring across, When I come up with something and I show it to him, he immediately asks, what's the story? What's the emotion? And if I don't have an answer, I feel I didn't do a good job of it, and it's a very interesting way to sort of reflect on yourself. What's the story? What's the mood? I don't know. It was just a lick that kind of happened. That's not enough, That's just sort of putting loops together in like a Lego, building a Lego because you have that piece in your hand, you know what I mean? So I want to go deeper into the possibilities that he opens up with these kind of questions, So what's the emotion? What are you trying to achieve? What's your story? So how about you, Mischa? What inspires you?
I would say everything. Life in general, my daughter, my cats, whatever happens in the big scheme on this planet. As I mentioned before, I find music is really an instrument to channel everything you have to say. And that can be positive, that can be negative. Oftentimes I can let go of negative energy when I'm on my instrument. But if we're talking about music, obviously the same names that you mentioned, but I'm also always trying to get out of my comfort zone and try to find new music. For example, thanks to one of my, actually my last guest on the show, Ed Bateman, who's really deep into African bass playing. I've dug deep into that, a little bit deeper into that area of the planet, and totally fell in love with Mbalach, which is Youssou N'Dour, is probably the best known artist in that style, and it's completely crazy what they do with rhythm. But yeah, obviously, any lesson that I give inspires me back, just like Ari said. Sometimes we as teachers have the feeling that the students teach us more than we teach them.
True that.
And that for sure carries back home to the studio and onto the instrument. Oh yeah, and actually, this summer I've been to a jazz workshop and we were talking about finding your own voice. And the teacher there was saying that basically, because I asked the question, but what happens if you found your own voice, but you feel like you're constantly repeating and saying the same things over and over? It's still your own voice, but it's also annoying because you want to play something new. And he said, well, then that's not your own voice anymore. You can only have your own voice if you constantly expand your vocabulary. If you just keep repeating, it's not you anymore. It loses this freshness of, oh, I just explored this. And that brings passion and life into the music, rather than just firing some automated finger patterns. But there's different perspectives. If you ask, what's his name, John Schofield, he always says, oh, my music doesn't have any meaning. I just want to make music that's fun to play and to listen to. And maybe that's enough. Maybe not every piece of music does have to have a political message or something. Maybe we can sometimes just make music for music's sake. But I think you can really go anywhere to get inspired. Films, books, nature, music, teachers. Next question. That was a long answer again. Awesome playing, bro. What type of pedals effects do you use? And could you tell me about the pedals? Just getting into pedals myself. Let me switch the screen. So, down here, first of all, this green thing here, that's my delay. And that silver foot switch is the cheapest MIDI foot switch you can get from Behringer. And that's basically my remote for the delay pedal, so I can control how long the delay is ringing, how much effect is in the delay, and a couple of other things. How much of it is in the mix. Then I have my looper, which is probably the best known looper in the world, the BC 300 from Boss. Just a 3-track looper. I was thinking about doing my looping on Ableton Live on a laptop because possibilities are endless. But I want it to really be plug and play and not set up a million cables and then have the whole system crash. Also, I noticed that if I don't limit myself to 3 tracks, I'm busy with setting up loops all the time and not playing bass anymore. And I wanted to play more bass and focus less on the loop side of things. And my last addition is this Helicon here, which I actually bought so I could include some singing and beatboxing to my loops, which I'm not going to do today. But this also has a really, really beautiful reverb, which I was always missing before, so I'm basically just using it as a reverb today. That's it from my side on the pedals. Wait, let me get Ariane back on stage.
Sure.
So then we have Cat thinks I'm nuts for dancing in the kitchen. Boom. Oh.
No, I don't.
Oh, you want to quickly say which pedals you're using?
Sure. I'm actually just seeing if I can. Look at that. How cool that is. We haven't sorted the cables yet, but here is my setup for today's show. This is just a looper. I use the Infinity. They are absolutely awesome loopers, but the problem that they have is that the jacks break really easily, and you don't want that to happen when you have like 300 live people staring you in the face and you're in London at Bass Guitar Day. So that was a bit scary. But then I have my flashback delay. I have the freeze pedal, which I used. I had the verb on throughout because we are not using much of the room sound. I use the Pog once in a while if I had a couple of other things in the back of my mind that I might do. So that's for, it makes it sound like an organ. That's kind of fun. And, with the bass, solo bass, you always want to hunt for other shapes and textures because you don't step on yourself and you're not in Mud City. And then this is a chorus, the Corona, and the compressor here. And I have the funk pedal from by MXR and envelope filter. So that's my setup, and it constantly changes, and it's a god-awful affliction. I don't know what to say, but I got way too many. And once you start, I got space on this board. What could I get now? But yeah, thanks for the question. They're fun, but you can also do a lot without them, So.
Yeah. So, Grief Liz, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this name, but apparently she's dancing in the kitchen and the cats think she's nuts. Thanks for dancing to our music, Grief. Then we got, how do you both practice? In other words, what would be a 1 week of typical practice time when you don't have particular gigs, just your typical playing?
Okay, so I'll take it first if you want. My practice routine used to be a steady diet of technique. It's essentially the stuff that I do in my practice groups. I have technique, I have pattern system, and I have repertoire. I also do reading, so I just pop open a book somewhere and just read for 20 minutes. And I practice in 20 to 25-minute blocks. And I would take a break in between. So that's my ideal day, that I would have, 2 or 3 blocks, maybe in the morning, and then before I go to bed, do another block or 2. More often than not, I just don't get to it. Right now, I play a weekly TV show, which is super fun. I love that gig. So ironic that I moved from LA and come here and play a TV show. So it's what it is. It's a recorded, it's episodes for a TV show, and the composer has everything ready, but then he wants me to lay down a live bass to give it a little more feel and to also come up with a few variations. And I love doing that. It's so much fun to be invited to bring in your creativity, And that's oftentimes last minute charts. The charts might be in whatever state they're in because this is deadline driven, And so whenever I get it, I'll practice that. Whenever I have a gig, I'll practice that, But most of my playing is also, and people who are in my practice groups, they know that I practice with them. I practice right along with that stuff. And some of the things I've done many, many times, I always come up with a twist or, try to think of something. And but especially the pattern system is a very concise description of how to practice. And once you understand, it takes a minute. You don't get that right off the bat. You have to experience it a little bit. But I think after 3, 4, 5 weeks in, you start seeing, oh my God, this is a path, and it's a never-ending path. Because when I'm done with regular major and minor, I can do melodic minor, I can do harmonic minor. You know, by that time, you know that fretboard so dang well. And it is a never-ending situation because you can use the pattern system to practice songs. You can use the pattern system without the bass. So you just, and I show you exactly how to do that in the book. You know, if you don't have your bass with you, you know, Wolf and I will sit somewhere and we'll go, okay, area 2, 8 beats, go. And then we'll go, okay, A minor, pattern 6, you know, count to 8. And then comes F, pattern 3, you know, we'll go through them like that and just through visualizing. And that's super powerful. And you don't need to do hours and hours and hours of it. I'm a big believer of high quality practice over quantity. I used to go to school and I practiced 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day and went to classes. When I was at the University of Miami, I had 1 year and I knew that was all I had. So I was hunkering down. I didn't go to Miami Beach once. So I was practicing and just super focused. But I discovered over the years that you can do much more actually if you play, like if I do pattern system for 15 minutes, my brain will feel rewired. If I practice an area that I don't know so well or come up with a new sequence or something like that. So I'm a big believer of quality over quantity, and doesn't need a lot. That'd be my take. How about yours, Mischa?
Mine's quite similar, but I have 2 different approaches to my routine because it really depends on the situation, as you said. If you have a gig coming up, then you probably spend most of the time rehearsing the repertoire or transcribing it. But if I really have nothing to do, basically it's also an hour in the morning, and I also like to start with finding random note names on the neck, playing some technical exercises to get warmed up. I really love practicing musical phenomena in the context of music. So like writing little exercises or things that I want to practice and making it musical, making a song out of it, and trying to really get it in by creating something. I find that if you always just take 5 minutes in the end of every session that you have to create something with what you've just practiced, you'll make it stick 10 times more.
100%.
And other than that, I really love the strict break approach that you say. I generally try to do 15-minute bits. And then there's one completely opposite approach that I do where I focus 1 hour on just one skill, which is, for example, if I want to learn a new skill, which I did 2 years ago with the Matthew Garrison 4-finger technique. And just for 30 days in a row, I practiced 1 hour a day just on that skill. 4 different songs or riffs that incorporated that technique, and then really try to drill down on exactly, okay, what is it with this riff that makes it challenging, and how can I work around, and just trying to bump up the speed every day, and then trying to double the speed for a little bit and see what's happening, and can I maybe play the first 4 notes in the original speed, just to get that feeling of how does it actually feel to play fast, because that's what that sluggish approach of just 1 BPM every day, and eventually you get there. Yes and no, it depends on the end speed really, because some speeds you just use different muscles and basically a different technique, so you should just try play 2 notes as fast as you can, just to have that experience once and know how it has to feel. Basically the same as that relaxing arm exercise where you just in between feel, this is how it feels when my arm is relaxed. And it's the same, this is how it feels when I play really fast, even if I can only play 2 notes. But now I know how it feels, and now I just have to keep up the relaxation really, because the only thing that then sits in your way of playing those 2 really fast notes and make a group out of 32 of them is not staying as relaxed as you can for those 2 notes.
100%.
So yeah, pretty similar to yours really. Then, okay, last 3 questions. I'd like to compare and contrast the soprano bass with the piccolo bass. Thanks.
I have tried a piccolo Marlowe, so he makes these short scale. I would think that's what you mean. I'm not entirely sure, but Marlowe makes short scale concerts,
I
and
thought the
he also
piccolo
makes
ones are the ones that Sander Zon and Charles Bertou use.
oh, that could be,
Is that
yeah.
maybe just the
I have
strings?
never tried one of those, so I wouldn't know.
Uh,
One thing to say about the soprano bass is that the strings are a little bit hard because he says from a builder's perspective that if they were a touch longer, then it would hit the sweet spot of the sound. But then they are in D. So when you order a Marlowe soprano, he can make you whatever you like. I just didn't want to think about detuning up in my brain, right? So I wanted it to just be EADG. But
Yeah.
if he makes them a touch long, it's just an inch, and then my God, they bloom. They're really beautiful. It makes a difference. But I wouldn't know. So I don't know the piccolo basses.
Okay.
I'm
Where
afraid to try basses. It's like pedals.
were you channeling Gollywog's Cakewalk a little? I'm not sure who of the two of us this question is meant for, but I can say no.
Me neither.
Okay. Good.
I'll say no too.
Aries pedal, is that an iPad with it? Another monitor from a Mac?
No, this is actually a Sumo. It's a device. I know what you're referring to. Let me show you this. This thing, right? This. So this is a Sumo. It's essentially a hard drive recorder. I can record all four cameras, and what I can do is sync them up easier. So when I record a class, I'm recording all three cameras or four because the number four is my screenshot. So I got that too. But I can see myself. And this is why we're having such a hard time getting me not blurry because it's pretty small and my eyes are really bad to begin with. So to ask me to see something not blurry is a challenge. But it's called a Sumo. And I mean, they are very expensive and they're kind of bulky, but what is nice about them is you pop a hard drive in and then you can record directly on the hard drive, and then you can take that and synchronize it in your Finale or whatever you use. So you don't have to go through lining them up and whatnot, which is a pain if you have ever done
Saves a
video.
lot of
So
CPU, definitely.
yeah.
Okay, last question. No, two more. With the squirrels.
Oh, he's just
Oh.
answering.
Yeah.
I'm
Gollywog's Cakewalk was about the squirrel song.
I'm so sorry, I missed that. What was it?
The question about Gollywog's Cakewalk was about the squirrel song.
Oh, okay. No gollywog in there that I was aware of. And I wrote it on the upright, and I
Yeah.
just watched the squirrels chase each other and fall down strings, and it just needed to be a little bit sloppy and a little bit just kind of, lively and that sort of idea. So
But this is what I call inspiration. And back when I just started making music, I was also the singer of the band. I was writing a lot of lyrics. And a lot of the lyrics that I wrote was misheard lyrics from bands that I loved.
nice.
And then I read the lyrics and oh, they're singing that. Well, my version is way cooler. Yes, got a new song. So, Eric, you know what to do. Last question. Question from Christy Ari. Sometimes you talk the academic papers you're writing. You talk about the academic papers you're writing. What are you studying?
Oh, I have been to 5, 6, 7 music universities. I don't know. The University of Music, the longest, the ways I was the longest was the University of Music in Vienna. Then I got a scholarship to the University of Miami, so I was there. Then I went to USF in Tampa. And I had done a ton of schooling, but I never actually got the paper for my master's. I have a master's of science from my former life as a biologist, but I never really pursued that as a profession. I just got the degree I was interested in, whatnot. But so I never really got the piece of paper. Now I have more credits that you would ever need but they are old and they don't apply and whatnot. So I am now studying at a school in London called AMS, And the idea is to give me a master's degree. They grandfathered me into a lot of things because I could document, my performing and my teaching. And it's a wonderful school. It's really research-based, which is great for me as a teacher because you can't just say X is so, right? You have to go into the literature. You have to do your research. And that's what I'm doing. So I did a study earlier this year on my PORA method, which for those of you who have my music theory book, you may know what it is. It's a habit change method. If these typical too much movement and pulling up a shoulder and these sort of things, how to change habits in a systematic way, 5 minutes a day and that sort of thing. And it's a method, and I've tested it. So I had students from all over the world, signed them up with an ethics form, did the whole thing, and the results were wonderful. So that was one thing I did. And right now I'm doing a study on playing fuller speed. So hence my constant focus on relaxation and small movement. And because I'm really interested in how is fast playing different than slow playing? How is the dynamics different? What happens in the mind? Maybe your mind knows it or your fingers can't keep up, but there's also the opposite. Your mind doesn't know it and your fingers could do it, but your mind doesn't know. So I'm really looking into how I can help people better to practice fast and play fast. Not the bass is a super fast instrument, but there are several reasons why you do want to know this, just because it makes you a better groove player too if you have more precision, more control, more accuracy.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, thanks for the question. But yeah, that's AMS. It's affiliated with the Royal Academy of Music in London, University of West London, I think, and the degree will be from the Royal Academy. So I'm excited. If it all goes well, then I'm done with it in September. So we'll see.
Cool. So that was the last question. I think I'm gonna play 2 more songs, or maybe just one. Maybe just one. It is getting late. Okay, so I gotta play a looper song now. Talking so much about pedals. What? I've got my director here with me in the room, telling me what to do.
These angels that help us in the background.
Exactly. Oh, let me switch that up so you can hear the bass. Okay, this song is called Sweet Home. It's also on my first album, and I wrote it being inspired by going and visiting my dad in Chicago, who used to work there for a year. And obviously we hit all the blues clubs, and that vibe never really left me. So I had to come up with a song dedicated to the blues, the mother of all Western music. I think I'm ready to go. Shall we go?
was awesome.
Yeah, we got Davey sitting here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wolf enjoyed it too. He came to visit.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, let's wrap it up, I would say. Let's summarize our little mission one more time. I think that bass deserves to be in the spotlight because we do so much work, and yet bassists can lead without the need to be in the spotlight. Tricky situation, this one. I think that not being in the spotlight should be pushed into the spotlight. Let's put it that way. How about that? Just working in the background, supporting everyone. And I feel that bassists inherently do that, or let's put it that way, the people that really understand what bass is all about. Because there's obviously a lot of people also out there that know how to play bass, but maybe not necessarily identify with the function of bass in music, which was totally me 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I know where you're coming from, and I don't blame you. It's totally fine. It's just not what the idea of bass is about, and this is what I want to communicate with Mission Bass. If you want to take part in the discussion, share your ideas and some input, please join Aria's Facebook group. Tell me one more time what it's called. Is it just Ari's?
It's facebook.com/groups/AriBass. ARIBASS.
Ari Bass. Okay. The link is also in the ask a question, answer question section. And my Facebook group is called Mission Bass. And obviously, this is not only for bass fans. This is also for professional bass players. Like I am a part of Ari's group. Ari is part of my group. We support each other because that's one thing, especially now during the lockdown season, I want to call it. What we've learned as musicians, that a lot of the time we are quite alone if we're not on stage or in the rehearsal room or in the studio with our bandmates, and in particular as solo musicians. So I thought also this show can be a start to getting together all the solo bassists in a nice tight network where we can support each other and also offer our audience, our listeners, more music from other solo bass players that they might have never found without our help.
For sure. And we want to hear you guys next time, right? So
Yeah.
please put something up. We'd love to inspire you and, post something into our group. So what have you. It doesn't have to be polished or perfect, but just to sort of make a contribution. We'd love to hear you play.
Exactly.
It's also about supporting basses.
And yeah, as I mentioned before, it's really about supporting bass, putting bass in the spotlight. And probably, apart from our Facebook groups, the most direct way is to reach us over our email lists. You can sign up on my website, and I think there's a sign up button on my Facebook page as well. With me, you get a little freebie. You get 3 songs sent in the first 3 days, and then I talk a little bit go a bit more deep into the whole idea of Mission Bass. Then I can hear in a 2-hour show. So I know Ariana has a very huge email list as well, and she's also having some enticement there for you to get.
Oh yeah, Survey 15 is a coupon you can use on my website for any of my courses, arisbassblog.com. Just click on courses, and if you sign up for the blog, you get educational materials, you get videos, you get a whole host of hopefully useful and fun materials. And I just want to say thank you to so many of you who tuned in last minute and who forgave me my time zone snafu there in my first email, and who came and joined us. That really means a lot. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, also for me. Thanks to you all, mainly. Thanks to you, Ariana. So super grateful to have you on the show, and getting all these people to come. Girl power, there we go again. You're just the networkers of the world. And one more time, thanks to our sponsor, Marushchik Bases. If there's any other sponsors out there, please. I'm always open to discussion. And thanks to everyone in the world, really. Stop talking to me half sentences. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all if you're watching the replay. Leave a comment if you're watching the replay so we know you watched the replay. And I'll send a follow-up email to you with all the links one more time, with a discount codes to our shops, with email addresses and where you can sign up, and all the social profiles and everything you need to know. Other than that, I'm wishing you another beautiful rest of the weekend, and hopefully see you back next month. You can sign up right now.
With my good friend Magnus Jokvist from Sweden.
Yes, exactly. We've got Swedish guest coming up. Anything else? Oh yeah, I'm always looking for new bass players on the show. So if you have any idea of who I can present, or if you're a candidate to come on the show, please do. I want to especially leave this space for bass educators and solo bassists. And yeah, write to me, reach out to me on any channel that works for you. Thanks again, everyone. And good night. Love and bass.